Welcome to Venator Chronicles Podcast. I'm Ethan Taylor.
And I'm Dustin Hjelle.
Our hope is to inspire new and old hunters alike.
We hope you can join us on this journey of lessons that we have, are, and will learn through the world of hunting.
3, 2, 1, we are live.
Back at it.
Back at it again.
Dude, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing quite well.
Awesome.
Yeah. So how was your week?
My week's been pretty good. Pretty
Yeah?
good. Yep.
Get out any at all?
I did. Yes. Yep. I ended up going out and further scouting some of this turkey area. And talking with your friend Steve. Well, our friend.
Our friend.
At this point,
he's
right?
my friend.
Yeah, he's my friend. Leave him alone. No, but I did talk to him, and I had showed him a map, and I went back out and kind of walked out these different ridges and fingers coming off this hill heading towards the river, and tried to figure out where the roost was, because I just haven't been able to get out there to actually roost them. And so,
any luck?
which is okay. So also my understanding of roosting a bird is hearing like shock gobbling of them, I think. Or I'm not exactly sure. I've watched like a few videos of people doing it, but not necessarily explaining it. But just from what I've gathered, that's what it is. And I just have not made it out towards that time of the day. And so my scouting trip consisted of trying to find any actual signs, scratching, all that, which kind of
Were you scouting, or were you shed hunting, or were you?
Well, I didn't find a shed, so
So you were scouting.
Scouting at 100%. I did see a deer though.
Okay.
All right. So, anyway, I worked that area where I kind of suspected they were and have seen them before. Saw lots of scratching, and then I was trying to figure out where they were roosting, and so I went off these fingers where I had actually physically seen them, and I basically walked under these really big red pines, and I found a few places where there's just mounds of poop.
Nice.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm hoping this is where they're roosting, and I think I know where they're flying down to.
Nice.
So I am getting more and more optimistic for the season.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that hunt.
Yeah, and honestly, and my calling, I would like to think, has improved, but also.
So for those of you listening, I don't know what Ethan's been doing with his calling, because I found out that he's basically chewed his mouth call to pieces, and so
it's still usable.
It's not a chew toy.
I'm really good though, because think of all the obstacles I have to do to make a good call now. You know what I'm saying? And so it's going to be that much easier with a fresh call.
Yes. So I guess I haven't actually asked. So when we go out next month in Wisconsin for you, are you going bow, or are you going to go shotgun?
I think we did touch on a little bit, but I'm going to attempt to do the bow.
That would mean I was listening to you, and
yeah, well, that's a good point. Hopefully someone else is. No, I'm going to do archery, and the idea really, because I'm not using a stand or like a ground blind. The idea is right now is I am going to set up some foliage of some high traffic areas, but also I'm more or less going to try to be in an area where they're already going, and be in an area where they're not going to basically see us or me until it's too late.
Nice.
So there's a zone where they scratched up like crazy, and it's like this cross section where I've seen them go, and there's a big berm to the right, and so they, like, when you can see them is within like 25, 30 yards.
Nice.
And so I figure, and there's actually, I found a nice tree to sit under, pine tree and all that. So I was like, all right, this is actually going to be a nice setup. Yeah. And then I'm excited for that not to work at all, and attempt to run and gun as well.
Yes.
So there's positives. Yeah. So that was, as far as like hunting that side of it, I did that, and then moved some trail cameras around and checked out some new areas. So
nice. I still got to get mine set up. Keep meaning to get out.
Yeah.
It's just trying to find time.
Yeah.
It's trying to find time.
It's a crazy balance. Like it all comes down to like scouting these totally new areas, or now I need to scout for turkeys where I've seen them and know they're actually there. But I think we touched on it last time, but it's been a little bit since we talked about it. The struggle stick.
The struggle continues.
The traditional bow. Just make sure everybody knows what we're actually talking about here. So why don't you fill us in on your last 2 weeks?
Well, it's like a drug. You start with a little bit, and then you want more. It's been bad. I'm not gonna lie. Like my wife seriously questions my sanity some days and why I decided to pick up a trad bow. because it's really all I can think about, and it's all I've been doing. I mean, I was so shooting the other day to the point where one of my fingers just started bleeding, and I didn't care because I was just enjoying it. Like I've not ever had this much fun shooting than I have with a trad bow.
Not and I think it's important to mention. Perhaps that was from a paper cut when your finger started bleeding because you actually bought bows.
Supposed to share that.
You bought some books.
Yes, I have bought books. And you know when the addiction becomes real when you start buying books, you start watching videos. Actually, this Monday, as long as schedule works out, I'm supposed to go up to Grand Rapids and go work with Arnie Moe, who I'd never heard of till last week from Tom Klum, and he was talking about what are some good resources and he mentioned Arnie Moe, so I YouTubed him, found out this one guy, DIY sportsman, had did a session with him, and I saw he was out of Grand Rapids, and this Arnie Moe is a level 4 national archery certified coach, and he's only an hour away. So needless to say, I was pretty pumped, reached out to him, sent him an email, and he got back to me like 5 minutes later, and we set up a session for Monday morning. So I am pumped.
Dude, are we ever going to sit down with him?
Maybe.
It's funny you mentioned that. I actually saw that video from DIY Sportsman on YouTube.
Yeah.
I watched that whole video like months and months ago.
Really?
Yeah, I was just curious because I was watching like a lot of his videos because he's got really cool content, and I saw him doing that, and they were like trying to figure out his form and what was going on because if I remember right, it kept hitting his nose.
Yeah, it kept hitting his nose.
Yep.
So I actually found out about DIY Sportsman from one of my coworkers, Kenny Schofield, because he was really good buddies with him. They went to college together, so it's a small world.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, so
that's
needless
really cool.
to say, I'm pretty pumped. Like I said, the addiction is absolutely real. I am sucked in. The thoughts in the back of my brain has me wondering if I should just sell my compound and buy a nice custom bow.
I was just about to say, so if anybody's in the market for a compound bow, Dustin's will be up for sale very shortly. I'm sure of it.
I'd like to think not, but I'd be probably lying. I've already started looking at it's bad, but it's been fun. Like I've really enjoyed it. I can shoot in my yard again.
That's awesome. Yeah, because it's not going to go.
We'll share that story for another time. You should probably end up shooting.
We've only alluded to it twice now. I think
your neighbor's truck. So yeah, I can shoot in my yard again, and it's been fun. I've learned a ton the last couple weeks. I'm super pumped to take it out turkey hunting. I'm actually going out next Saturday with my oldest, taking her turkey hunting for the first time ever, and excited to take her out and just get her in the woods.
Is that for the youth hunt?
That's for the youth hunt, which in Minnesota, if you're under 13, is a free tag. So score.
That's awesome.
And she's been wanting to get out. She likes going out. Super excited to have a kid that enjoys hunting, and so I'll probably take the struggle stick and maybe get something going.
Nice, dude. That'll be intense.
Yeah.
I get the feeling that's going to be.
It's going to be fun.
If you aren't already sold just with your practice and stuff.
Yeah.
That'll be another level. I'm sure.
And just to be able to get out, I'm looking forward to that. And and it's also in an area where I do some deer hunting. So if we don't get a turkey, we'll just be scouting.
Yeah, and if you find a shed, you'll be shed hunting.
Sure.
Right? Shed crazy, shed rally. I mean, you tag it all the time. It's one of your favorite pastimes.
Yes, I love shed hunting.
It's like shed hunting and then scouting and then actual hunting. That's your priority list.
Yeah, totally.
That's what you've told me in private many times.
I got an image to keep up. So
he's red in the face right now. He's super mad at me, everyone, just so you know, for the listeners.
So I'm actually pretty excited about today's episode.
Yeah. What's happening in today's episode?
Yeah. So we actually get to interview my brother Caleb and talk about his first year of bow hunting and hunting and taking a deer. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Caleb Timothy Hjelle.
Oh boy, look him up. He's the man. We're getting them all squared away here. We have 2 microphones for 3 people. Just full disclosure. So we're gonna do our best to make this work out nicely. But I'm excited as well. So welcome, dude.
Hey, glad you guys could have me. And actually, this whole getting Dusty's hand me down is pretty normal.
Yeah? Is
yeah,
that-
I
is
get
that
to use his microphone
pretty
and I get
standard?
to use his headset. Yeah, that's pretty typical.
Did you get his hand-me-down bow is the question.
Actually, no.
Oh,
No.
see, I got a hand-me-down
No,
bow.
they went out and they actually found a pretty good fitting bow for me. So
That's precious.
okay, so no, actually, like the bow.
Yeah.
is, like it's actually kind of a funny story because he's like, dude, you got to get into this this bow hunting. You're gonna love it. Oh, I've been doing all this. Rah, 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 rah. You know, I've been
That
shooting.
sounds like
I'm
Dustin.
getting
That's-
excited. I'm like, dude, you haven't even shot a deer. Okay, maybe I'll check it out. But no, like I really wanted to actually get into bow hunting because like first year of rifle hunting
Yeah.
was boring. So
Ooh.
yeah, no, it was because
Why was it boring? Please enlighten us.
because it was bucks only in the only area that I knew where I could hunt.
Yeah.
There was just a bunch of does.
Was it all public or was it all
No,
private?
it was all private.
Okay.
Like it was a guy I knew, and that's actually the same place where I shot my deer this year.
Okay.
But you know, I was like, this kind of sucks. Like I could probably nail that deer 200 yards away, but I can't shoot it because it's doe. I'm like, come
Yeah.
on. And then with like the bow hunting, it worked out great because I was like, oh, I could actually go anywhere with this, and like I could go to places which are high traffic during rifle season, and no one's gonna be there in September, October. You know.
Yes.
So-
Yes. So where are you from in relation to Dusty? Are you guys
Right.
pretty close.
Yeah. So Dusty's the oldest,
Okay.
and then there's
Location wise.
Oh, location-wise,
I didn't
okay.
ask that question very
wow.
well.
Okay.
Location wise.
Yeah. No, you
My
really
bad.
did. That's okay. No, location wise, yeah. I live in Duluth. Dusty lives in Cloquet.
Okay.
20 minutes away.
Yeah. So that's not bad.
No, it's like our whole family's up here, which is 5 minutes we could drive to another person's house, and it's
Nice.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So you had mentioned first year rifle hunting. When was that?
That was 2017.
Okay. And have you done any hunting prior to that, even small game or anything like that?
I went out shotgun hunting in our swamp with Dusty once.
Okay.
At
What
that
were what were you hunting for?
Anything.
Anything? So
Mainly rabbits.
Yeah. Actually, I think it was like grouse, but we didn't see anything.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
In a swamp. How fun
It
was that?
How far did we go? Maybe we
How-
walked like 100 yards. We're like, yeah, screw this, we're out.
Well, you were in a swamp. I imagine that that probably wasn't the most fun you could imagine.
I mean, we grew up playing in that swamp, so you know.
Okay, you made the most of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Nicely done. Nicely
Yeah,
done.
actually, that kind of has a nice ring to it. We grew up playing in a swamp. Think about that.
It says a lot about our
Yeah.
upbringing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
right.
is the Swamp People New Edition here. So
Yeah, swamp people, Minnesota.
it's gonna get
Dude,
messed
History Channel, hook us up. Let's go.
up. Oh my. Oh, we're going off the rails. I love it. No, but honestly, so 2017 rifle
Yep.
season.
Yep.
What? I mean, did you do any prior research before going out? Like, did you just grab a gun and go sit somewhere? Like, what did it look like for you?
Yes, I grabbed a gun and went and sat somewhere. That is exactly what I did. Like,
Like-
I was like, oh, I know there's deer coming through here. I see a
Okay.
couple of rubs. I'll just put this stand up here and sit in it and wait.
Did
And,
you? Yeah.
Dude, deer came up like 40 yards, 20 yards,
Mm-hmm.
80 yards, whatever, but they're all does.
Mm.
And it sucks because there was a good sized buck that was running through this guy's yard
Yeah.
once a week, and that was like the days where I just couldn't go out and hunt. So
Or he
Yeah.
just knew you weren't there because you were going to the same spot. every
Exactly.
si- You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like,
yeah, that
that-
deer was
we learned
smarter
about
than
that
me.
last week.
Right, right.
Was it Old Faithful, the spot you were
Probably
hunting, just the
was,
same
yeah.
spot every time?
It actually was. Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
And that's
yep.
probably why.
Dude, and
So-
I've been there. Like, it's only this year that I was like, oh, I'm getting. We talk about not getting married to a spot. I divorced all my prior spots.
Nice.
So now I'm running around using different spots all the time. And those what we call virgin sits, where it's like you just bring your stand with you and you go back, are some of the best sits I've ever had. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So you rifle hunted, and you thought it was super boring, and you couldn't shoot any does,
Right.
and you didn't see any bucks,
Right.
and you didn't have much invested into it. Maybe would
I
that
didn't
be fair
get
to
much
say?
invested to it. Neither did I put any time into research or knowing anything, or did I have clothes set off to the side that
Okay.
weren't to like, sitting outside,
Yeah.
emitting all my scents before I went out into the woods. So I mean, it was
Yeah.
like everything that I could do wrong, I probably did wrong.
which is pretty much exactly the same way that I hunted the first couple years.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's just what we do. We're like, oh, we're gonna try this. We'll just jump
Uh-huh.
in.
Yeah, and I wonder, how many people were you talking to or were you connected with about it, like sharing stories right after? Did you have any of that going on?
Honestly, I was talking with my buddy Eric, who I was just getting to know at the time, And if you know Eric, he just kind of he does most of the talking. So I just listen to his hunting stories. I'm like, oh, okay.
Dustin doesn't know
I'll go
anyone
with
across the desk that does that.
Oh. No, he doesn't. No, not at all. I don't either. So yeah. But no, honestly, I really wasn't talking to anyone. And like the thing with like growing up and hunting, we didn't do it. We didn't really know anybody that did it. So like, did we have somebody who could call up and be like, hey, Uncle Kyle or Uncle Steve, you guys got any words of wisdom for what we could do? Like, no, we didn't have any of that. So it's like when you talk about who I knew, who knew what to do, there was really not much.
So before we even jump into the actual ins and outs of your season, would you say as like an overarching theme? Do you feel like the community aspect of it? Because I get the sense, and talking to you obviously off air, that perhaps there's a bit more involved and a bit more community. Did that add to it, or was it like you just really loved archery, or was it part of like the people and having those conversations right away, or the feedback and all that kind of thing? Well, I mean, what could you see there's a big difference there, or not at all?
Well, you kind of have to separate me from the rest of the flock because I am more of like the individualistic person.
Okay.
I kind of go off and do my own thing. You can talk to Dusty about that. He'll say it. Yeah, he'll agree.
Caleb lives on a different planet than
Are
the
you
rest
serious?
of us. Totally. He's always been the oddball.
No, I'm here. My mind's elsewhere.
That's physically here. Mine is so far gone.
It's No, so
that's
like when it comes to like community and whatnot. It's like I don't really seek to do all these stuff with community, not because it's like, oh man, I see all this, these kind of people. I want to be a part of them.
Yeah,
I already have people in my lives who I really rely on and love to be around.
Yeah,
and so when it comes to hunting, I'm like, this is just something I want to do, right? So I approach it with the point of view of going like, this is something I want to try. And when I go hunting, I was doing mostly solo hunts.
Okay,
I never really went with anyone. So
yeah. So
yeah.
So I guess I think it kind of does, and that's really interesting, and I like that the idea of you kind of just being like, you know what, I've just kind of been a solo dude, and I kind of do things a little bit different. And I know one thing for us is we're always talking about like community and how that's like a big deal, and so I'm actually really excited to hear how maybe it differs for you, and then what makes it different. So I think we'll get into that as we start talking about your season, because I'll probably just poke and prod, as we go. So why don't you just kind of start out just telling me even how you heard about archery,
right?
And then everything before even the season started, like how much were you practicing all the time? Was that something that was really interesting to you, or were you scouting? Like, what was different than rifle season? That was was it more enticing just in general, like archery, like you said, longer season?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So maybe just start out from the beginning and just kind of start to fill us in and ask questions as we go.
Yeah. Well, Dusty kind of suckered me in, and I'm trying to look for a bow, and I'm the kind of guy that like I like. Okay, actually, like the boots I'm wearing right now, right?
Yeah.
Some Red Wing boots, steel toes. And I found them like, dude, these are awesome. Would I go out and spend like $200 on them? No. I'll just wait till I find a good deal and go with it. I'm like, I don't want to. I just can't justify spending things. So I was like, oh, I came across these at Savers. I'll buy them. Same with the bow. I'm like, I see this, this nice Matthews Z7 left hand for $560. I'm like, maybe I could, maybe I will, maybe I won't. And that goes on for like a month and a half. And I just won't buy it because I'm too cheap.
Okay.
So I ended up getting a bow after Dusty was like, yeah, I think he really wants to get into bow hunting. So, yeah.
And that's where I saw that he was talking about wanting to get into the archery, wanting to do it, but he was getting married last year already. Yeah, last year. And so I knew finances were a little tight. And then one day I had this realization, I was like, hey, so I ended up throwing out a text to all his groomsmen and the guys that were going to be part of his little bachelor party, and just said, hey, what do you guys all think about throwing in some money, getting Caleb a bow? I know he wants to get into it. Perfect opportunity to surprise him. So yeah, all the guys threw in, and we ended up finding him a bow and surprising him on the bachelor party night.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, like, and every guy that was there was like super involved in my life, so it was pretty cool to just kind of see them to, kind of like watch me become a part of being in like the bow hunting community. So it's just small stuff like that.
Yeah,
that I just
that's
got,
pretty
like,
awesome.
Super stoked about.
Yeah.
So
And then I assume Dustin started going on and on about like a FOC and things that just totally were dry and you couldn't handle it and you're like, I quit.
Oh, fuck it up.
Yeah.
No, okay. So
No,
you got
seriously,
the bow. And
I got
then
the bow,
what
yeah.
happened? I mean,
Well, it sat around for a few days because I still needed sights, which came in later. And then, what else did you toss on there? Oh, stabilizer, just a stabilizer, and then a release. So I got those in, and then we started plucking away. And we ended up starting off with like just what was it, like a True Fire wrist release or something? I think it was a cheap True Fire wrist release that worked pretty well. And
I rock that.
I did. And it's funny because like when I first started, you brought me out to like the spot in Cloquet and we started shooting, and like I was actually doing okay for shooting for the first time. I was hitting like within like what 3-inch groups at 25 or 4. I was like, 20 yards, 3-inch groups. I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. Like I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So like that was kind of nice to see. And then, yeah.
At what point would you say like you're like, I'm going to be bow hunting? Is that where you're at with bow hunting just in general? Like you're like,
it was.
I'm in. Is that where you're at?
Yep, totally.
So I have like a point in my archery like introduction where I was like, okay, I'm doing this the rest of my life. Now I just need to start looking for a better bow.
Yep.
Do you have a point where it was like, oh, I'm sold?
Well, basically it was like, I'm not going to do target archery. If I'm going to do archery, I want to get into bow hunting because like I want to find another means of getting out and getting a deer.
That's awesome.
So instead of just like, your typical rifle season, which, and honestly, like this could be a whole nother discussion, like what people see from the outside about the rifle hunting in Minnesota, like deer rifle hunt.
Yeah.
Is, I don't think it's great. Like, it's just not good. I have a really cynical view about it. There's a lot of assumptions that go into it, and those assumptions aren't wrong. Or stereotypes. Those stereotypes aren't wrong. And so it's like, it's not that I'm sickened by it. It's just kind of like, I really don't want to be a part of this.
Dude, you gotta share. You gotta share now. Everyone's
oh man, okay.
Just give me the cliff notes on what your impression is of rifle season.
So rifle season.
We may not dive into the nuances of every piece of it.
Basically, like everything that I see from the outside is there's this deer stand sitting just barely 100 yards off the road, facing a big field, and there's two guys who are like 45, 362 pounds with like a 24 pack each, sitting up there getting drunk, hoping that they'll nail a deer. And they miss, and then they injure the deer because they're drunk half the time, and then they come back on their four-wheelers drunk back to the cabin, right? And their nieces and nephews are all there going, did you get one? Yeah, we shot one. We put 7 shots into it, but your gun only holds 6 or 6. Yeah, I know, right?
Okay.
It's just like, man, those guys suck. Like, they really do. So, okay, case in point, I'm sitting outside at my parents' shooting my bow, and I hear 7 shots go off on my neighbor's, like, it's a hayfield.
Okay.
They pop off 7 shots in a row.
Yeah.
I'm like, does it really take 7 shots to shoot a deer? I don't think so. These people just don't know how to shoot.
Dude, that was like sitting out in the tree stand last year, one of the areas I was at, and all of a sudden, I mean, I swore you were in like the Civil War or something.
Yeah,
all you heard was boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom! It was just like, what? I was afraid of actually getting shot. So
yeah, and then 20 minutes later, you got all these 4-wheelers running out there trying to look for it, and you got some trucks getting stuck. So instead of actually looking for the deer, they're pulling out the truck because it got stuck in the mud. That's rifle hunting from my point of view.
That's your condensed version of rifle hunting.
Yeah. Yep. Don't even. Yeah, that's without going into detail of what they do at the cabin,
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Okay, all right. Well, that's one view.
So to bring things back around, would you say that part of the appeal to actually get into archery is also just to have a longer like season and to have more time to be able to hunt instead of just like 1 week or 2 weeks at the most?
Yeah, totally. You have, was it like 3.5, 4 months of hunting?
Yeah, basically. Yep.
Right? You have a lot of time. If you don't get anything in September, like you're not a bad hunter. Most people don't get things in September. You have all this time to be spread out, especially if you're working full time or you're busy, you got a rotating schedule, and you can get out to the deer stand once a week, once every 2 weeks for a couple of days. And that's nice because then you can also go with like the changing of the seasons.
Yeah.
And like another big attraction to it was that I think with bow hunting is the silence of it. And I love just being out in the woods where it's completely quiet. I don't like doing it without a purpose. So it has to be like some type of purpose. Either I'm like praying or meditating or running or camping or better yet, bow hunting.
Yeah.
Everything is quiet, even up to the point where you are actually following through on your pole. It's quiet.
Well, I think one thing for me, I think I kind of have that in common with you on that, and I'm sure many bow hunters do. And another aspect of it that with bow hunting that I absolutely love is when you're out there and you are, I mean, like I've missed deer, and it's like the woods isn't quiet after you miss a deer. You know what I'm saying? Like the woods is still alive. Like you're still in there and you're still a part of it. And you may be kicking yourself. And like, I remember I took a shot, so you say September, most people don't get their animal in September.
Yeah.
Which I agree. Most people are missing in my case, in September. Cause I missed I think 2 does in September and the 8-point buck I ultimately ended up getting.
Yeah.
And
let's not talk about how many does Dusty missed.
No, he hit him, right?
Did you? Oh,
Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
right,
yeah,
right.
the
The other
focus.
mistake.
Yeah. Gloves are off.
They always have been.
It's true. So I guess like that was one thing that's really cool about it is like the changing of seasons. And for me, like I really like the early on, it's like you're patterning, and then mid season, it's like, oh, we're starting at mid to middle late season, whatever. You're starting to get into the rut. And so like things can get weird and crazy and just random.
Yeah.
And then like that, when you start getting into winter, it's like, okay, now I'm like grinding it out.
Yep.
Where it's like, now it's time, like you're just like, it's an actual mental struggle to like continue doing it. Like doing it in a way that's actually going to be fruitful and not just like
for sure
going out there and whatever. I'll just,
well, and
I'll
the
just
unique
sit and
thing,
stand.
like with the changing of the seasons, the plot that I hunted where I actually got the deer, you could notice the shift in the deer behavior throughout the change of seasons.
Yeah.
And that was actually really fun. And honestly, that's what led me to actually nail one right where he was at.
That's awesome.
And being able to do that is fun because you're able to sort of, and this sounds cheesy, tree huggery, but you're kind of one with nature at that point. They're wild, you're wild. The change, like the weather, you're a part of it just as much as they are.
Yeah.
It's not like you're coming to the game with all like this equipment that's making you fancy and
What
like
that
more
make-
advanced at them.
What that makes me think of is even when I'm out in the stand and like depending on the wind, like
Yeah.
that will determine how quickly I can move. And we talk about being one with nature, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, my tree's all over the place. It's like it's
Right.
not going to be as big of a deal for my hand to be like, all the way. Woo. So, and the other thing that I've been kind of enticed to more recently, and I've been talking to some people trying to get some resources and like figure out the most efficient way to go about it, is like the 9-day season for Wisconsin for rifle season is it's just like you go out, and this is where the it's been a huge paradigm shift for me, is like you go out, you put the time in as far as like you just sit there all day, you do deer drives, and then you sit there again, and you sit over a bait pile primarily, right? And so it doesn't require a whole lot of woodsmanship, at least the way we were doing it. I'm sure there's people who do with woodsmanship, but as I've started archery hunting and like being like, oh, this is like a long-term investment that I'm working on in different spots and understanding what's going on, like my curiosity has gone like through the roof, and I'm like, I need to learn like what trees I'm looking at. I want to know like the foliage that I'm looking at. I want to know, not just about deer, but actually finding all the stuff. And a big part of it too is my kids are out there, and if they're asking me what it is, it's like, well, I want to know. And so it's really encouraged me in that way as well to actually engage in it in a much deeper level than just what can I get out of this, as far as like what can I take off the land. So it's been really cool for me as far as that goes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Or like when you're out there, and this is like, I look at my experience as basically a really narrow experience. I hunted mostly on like this one plot of land, rifle and then bow, and I saw these subtle differences. But I think like a lot of people could relate with them is with rifle, you just kind of notice where the deer are at, you position yourself, and you're ready to take them out. It's sort of like you're in the military, right? You know where the enemy's coming in. Let's set up an ambush and let's nail them when they come through, right?
Yeah.
But with bow hunting, I found that my face was looking towards the ground a lot more, looking for these subtle details. Like, would I notice a rubbed rifle? Yeah. But would I also notice like this one footprint in the mud in this random spot rifle?
Yeah.
No. At bow hunting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the way I've kind of encapsulated it probably, and I've talked about like my actual kill, and it's like it was actually it was profoundly different from rifle hunting, taking deer from that.
Would you say, Caleb, that you found it yourself a lot more immersed into your surrounding and into the situation and the moment with archery hunting compared to sitting out with a rifle?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, where you are, you have to get up close to a deer. And that was something going into it is like, I know I got to be within 40 yards. I'm not going to take a shot. I'm not going to take a shot either.
And the truth comes out.
That's why you didn't get one with the rifle.
Yeah, right? Yeah, no, like I'm not going to take a shot past 40 yards.
Yeah.
Because I haven't shot past 40 yards, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I have. Am I good at it? No.
That's where I'm at.
I could get one at 40 yards, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like I have to get up close, and so you have this 360-degree sense that's about you. You're looking at every little detail with the wind.
Yeah.
With just with the weather, with the ground. Where are they moving? What are they doing? Are they coming out of the west side of the field and in that part of the woods, or are they coming out of the east? What time of day? So there's a lot more going on that you're taking into account, which was fun. It's like there's an intimate feeling that you get with this part of hunting.
That's the exact the word that I kind of encapsulate it with is like it's a much more intimate way of hunting in my mind. And
yeah, it totally is.
And I was totally, and we'll get to this, I promise. We'll get to your kill, but also like I've talked about it in prior podcasts, but like one of the lowest moments was actually when I shot the deer. I had a weird experience with it, and it took me, well, first of all, it wasn't a great shot. So I spine shot the deer. I had miscalculated the yards essentially. I had ranged a bunch of areas, and he walked to a place I was not expecting, and I ended up spine shooting it. And so I watched him for probably 5-10 minutes before I was down the climber. I had to lower all my stuff and get back down, and there's no shot where he was, and watch the deer try to get away on its two front hooves. And it was seriously like, I felt so bad because I felt like I did a huge misservice to the animal, and like actually doing what my job is to do ethically as possible.
Right.
But the community, and we talked about this before, the community really like started to reassure and like, dude, everybody misses. Everybody has those arrows not go exactly where they hope and intend. But at the same time, I took a lot away from it. Okay, so we'll get back on track.
Yep.
Here.
Let's get back on track.
Right. So you get your bow from
I
your,
get my bow.
Homies.
Perfect. This is where I wanted to get to. You start developing that process of how to shoot, and Dusty kind of really helped me learn how to do that, and just way how to pull back, set, relax, like the way both arms are going to be positioned, figure all that out, and then I started shooting pretty decent. But then there was at one point, I started noticing. My shots were my whole process was just breaking down. Right. So I was going into like this open loop or closed loop? That's just natural. Yeah. Open loop process of shooting where I was just making it, habits were just naturally.
And we'll get into this, I think, in a future episode on open loop versus closed loop that I've learned from Jill Turner at Shot IQ. And really understanding the mental process by which you're developing this whole shot process. It's some fascinating stuff.
Could you just, I mean, at least for it sounds like it's a pretty important aspect. Would you be willing to just kind of really condensely before we'll probably have a whole podcast on it, I'm guessing. Yeah. But I would like to like just get a real condensed version of what that means so people get an idea of what he's talking about.
Yeah. So basically the 1 minute version is open loop versus closed loop process. Is open loop is something that you're just going to do. Like you shooting a basketball, swinging a bat, walking quickly. You're just doing it. It's this open loop where you aren't necessarily you're going at such a speed where you don't necessarily have control over that process. You're just doing. It's a very reactionary versus a closed loop process is something that it is done in such a speed to where you are maintaining control during that whole process. So like with shooting a bow, either I could open loop process would look like I'm pulling that bow up, pulling it back, getting set, firing off a shot. It's not a lot of thought that goes into it. It's just something that you're doing versus a closed loop process shot, which is where you're really cognitively processing the whole shot sequence, your shot process, and as you're especially pulling through your shot, you are maintaining a control level to where if you realize something's out of order, you have the ability to let down. Joel Turner describes it as if you can't let down in a shot process, you're probably operating in an open loop process where you're just trying to do the motion versus a closed loop is where you're maintaining that control and you have the ability to let down, and you're recognizing what you're doing. You're very cognitive of what you're doing, and I think that's kind of the quick 1 minute spiel on it.
Okay, cool. All right, so you can continue. Right. So basically,
so all my shots are breaking down. I'm starting to throw some wild, haymakers, and like this is not good. And Dusty loaned me one of his targets, and so I just started practicing on that. And I had spent I don't know how many hours, but not a ton, but not only a couple.
Yeah,
I spent plenty of time shooting, probably twice a week, 3 times a week for about 45 minutes each.
Yeah.
So I had some decent time, enough to stay up on it, and then I had to actually slow myself down, and I would only spend like 20 minutes shooting instead of 45 minutes because I'm like, I want to make some good habits here. And if I'm hitting good, I'm going to stop there. Not necessarily because I'm like, okay, let me stop while I'm ahead, but because I want to come back in a couple of days and repeat what I've done. I want to repeat this process. I don't want to lose it to bad habits that I just start creating.
So like you were just really working on like maintaining that mental engagement where you're actually thinking through the process and not just, I gotta shoot 50 arrows today regardless.
Yep.
Right.
And it totally paid off because by the time I actually had to make that shot, it was slowed down.
Yeah.
Like mentally, I had to actually slow myself down, and it really helped. So
that's awesome. That's exciting.
It did.
So, so tell us about just like his rough overview of where you're hunting, how many hunts did you get before you had the opportunity, and kind of work us through the actual hunting season now, if you would.
Cool. Yeah, totally. So there's 2 zones that I was hunting in. One was a intensive harvest zone, which is I think it was up to 4 deer. 1 buck, 3 does. If you haven't nailed a buck, you could still get one in this zone. And then one was a hunter's choice zone. So 1 buck or 1 doe, it's up to you. And I had 1 plot of land. One of my old buddies from high school, his dad bought like 45 acres out near my parents, like 15 minutes away. He's great. He's got a hay field, and then like half the property is woods that lead into the swamp. So plenty of deer traffic that come through. They come up in his yard. He's got a couple of bucks that come through in the summer, not really in the fall. So kind of wondering what's going on there. And then there's another 40-acre plot of federal land that I found that if I went bow hunting there and if I saw any doe, I could just take it as a bonus tag. So I was like, hey, perfect. Let's do this. Actually, I think intensive harvest was 3 deer, not 4. Yeah, it was 3 deer.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I only got 1, so I didn't go beyond my I got 4 deer in the zone. There's 3 DNRs going to get on me. Oh, boy.
Full disclaimer. All right.
No, let's be honest here. I suck. I only got 1 this year.
Okay.
But
me too.
Yeah, right? So, and then...
me too.
Yeah. So we all got 1. So, that's good. And then there was another plot of land not too far from that 40-acre plot of folks that I knew growing up. I had gone to church with them, knew them pretty well, and I just knocked on their door one day. They're really sweet. They invited me in. We had coffee and talked about, hey, can I hunt in your land? They're like, oh, of course. Please do.
Sweet.
And he's got 80
awesome.
Acres. Yeah, awesome land. I'm going to go back there not this fall, but the following for sure.
Cool.
And just really try and work that land. So I had like 3 different spots I was rotating between. The 40-acre plot, I ended up looking around and going, 25, 30 yards away, there's a deer stand. I'm walking my way out going, there's another deer stand. oh, there's another one over here. And that was after we found another one like the first time we were setting up. So I'm like, this place is saturated.
You're like, goodbye.
I'm out. Like, yeah, I probably won't get anything here because there's going to be too much traffic to do anything. Yeah. So this like 45, 50 acre plot of this guy I knew. 1 second.
You're good.
Yeah, I went out there and I set up the stand. The previous year I went back to it, and it's just, I was looking at reassessing it and going, this is too exposed. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to take this stand down just in case I want to spend some time up there, but really it's too exposed. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm going to do this. So I ended up, putting up ground blinds, which were like man-made bush ground blinds.
Nice, awesome.
Yeah, I'd take like some like
just
that.
Like foliage, dead foliage or whatever.
Yep, foliage, or like something like that see-through camo netting.
Oh, that's awesome.
And set a little bit of that up,
dude,
and it worked great. I mean, deer see it as like a fuzz in the bushes. They're not gonna make a big deal about it. And so I really worked that land, and I saw deer probably every other time I went, but they were out of shot, or I was walking out after dark and they're just running off after just finally coming out to feed. And I think their behavior for food was based on time, not necessarily daylight, which was really funny. So I think they got hungry around 4:30 and started coming out of the woodwork.
Like real early?
Yeah,
like
no.
Before it was dark?
Yeah.
Like what time of year? Was it like September?
It was in September, but I wasn't hunting out there in September. I had a lot of stuff going on in September and October, so I wasn't getting out much other than just practicing shooting and just going scouting for a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
But, new hunter, I didn't scout a whole ton. I really wish I had.
Yeah.
That's something I'm going to be doing different this next time.
Dude,
I was doing a lot
there's
scouting.
a lot of that Dustin and I and probably any other honest hunter is like, I'm going to do this better next year.
Yeah, okay, and to all the listeners, these guys are new. I'm even newer. So just put that in perspective. Like, this is, hey, we're new guys. Who's newer who we can get on our podcast to learn from? Yeah, that's
awesome.
going to be me.
It.
So, yeah.
Well, I hope, like, as we continue forward, side note, I hope as we continue forward, like, we get to see some development. Like, I think it's just cool, like you said, to have people who are totally new and just hear your initial season and how it goes and then just keep revisiting it. I think that'd be really fun to see how it develops.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, you got these areas. What was it? 3 primary areas?
Yep, 3 primary
and
areas.
You narrowed it down to 2, was it?
Yeah, basically 2.
Okay, awesome. Yep. And so tell us about maybe some hunts where, did you have any hunts where you were within range and it just didn't work out? Or was it like the first time I was in range, it worked out?
Honestly, man, I've only been in range once, and that's the time it worked out.
Sweet.
Yeah, right?
All right.
So take a shot when you can, get it, right? But before that, I was figuring out, what do I need to hunt with? Gear and whatnot. I'm new at this.
Yeah.
And, dude, I'm a sucker. So this one guy, I think, man, what was his name? Donnie Vincent? I don't know. Something like that. He's a small guy on Instagram. I think he's pretty new at hunting too. And he's like, I'm not going to go with camel. And I'm like, oh, I'll buy that.
I'll buy not having to buy anything.
So
exactly.
Full disclaimer here, if I'm considered a hipster, Caleb is absolutely outright hipster. Like, yeah, no doubt, no question. Caleb is completely hipster. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
You guys aren't brothers by chance, are you?
So it's not cool for him to wear camo because hipsters don't wear camo. I still at least wear camo. I just want to throw that out there.
No. Let's go back to what I said earlier. I'm too cheap.
So
I'm too cheap to go out and buy cheap camo. So I'll wear my cheap flannel that I got for free at Christmas.
Dude,
and I don't think pants that I got for $5 at Savers, which are wool, and my steal on Craigslist boots that I'm like, heck yeah, let's do this.
AKA the definition of a true hipster.
But
what can we buy at the thrift store, man?
That's probably a fair point.
Basically,
but also,
I
think
can't
there's
fight that one.
I do think there's value though. Also, it's like some people feel it's like literally impossible without certain things.
They do, and I didn't want to buy into that. I
Yeah.
didn't want to buy into like. That's another aspect of rifle hunting I didn't really care for. Is like you need to have all this stuff in order just to go rifle hunting. Like I felt like the idea of being sold, you need all this camo to go hunting. I'm like, no, you really don't. But you probably should if you're smart. And if you got the money, do it. It's probably worth it. I don't doubt it. But the thing with being too cheap is that when it came time to buy broadheads, some listeners are like, this guy's actually smart. he's saving all his money on clothes so he can buy a nice broadhead, buy a nice bow. No, I got my bow for free, and I got some Allen broadheads for $8.
Yeah, I about cried when I heard what kind of broadheads he got.
Yeah, I'm surprised you let that fly, Dusty.
No, I was the one that let them fly.
Oh,
I didn't find out until after he shot the deer, so
Yeah, but
there's a reason for that.
I'm assuming the deer is dead. So
it is.
It's not all bad
it's in
news.
my freezer. Which, hey, dude, for $8 for Allen broadheads, they worked great. They killed the deer, right? Isn't it mostly about shot placement?
Yeah. It
okay.
really
yeah,
is.
Let's break it down.
But I mean, we talk about percentages and what's going to help you. So
yeah,
you try to figure out what percentage something's going to add to your arsenal, and then
totally,
the ethical side of it. So continue on with kind of talking about. So you had one encounter. Do you just want to start like on the actual hunt, like what was going on the day of?
Yeah, so like I'd spent a lot of time in this area. They were coming out of the woodwork in this one like area that was heavily, I want to say it was like brush.
Okay.
There was no trees, and they weren't really hitting the hayfield very much. Like they would just skirt around the edge and come into this brush. There must have been more food on the ground, or what they thought was more food. And the owner of the property had actually set up this old deer stand. It was a stationary stand he had built years ago, and it was just falling into disrepair. But I had noticed they kept going in front of it, and I'm like, I'm not going to use that deer stand. I'm going to nail him like a real bow hunter. I'm going to get him for where I want to, right? But, in reality, I had to take a step back, reassess the situation, and go, okay, no, I got to change this up. I gotta start meeting them where they're at.
Uh-huh.
So I ended up one day breaking down and going up into this busted down deer stand.
Mm-hmm.
And it was loud going up. So I'm going up there going, I'm totally scaring them off. But they're not coming out yet, so hopefully something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting up there, and I've got, my wool pants on, my mucklucks, and, a heavy coat. I'm like, all right, I'll get 'em.
Like every good hipster.
You know it. You know it, man. I only buy functional equipment, and sometimes cheap is functional. So.
Oh, boy.
Dusty's just cringing. Anyway, so I'm sitting up there, and lo and behold, there's 2 deer come walking out of the woodwork. I'm like, oh, sweet.
Yeah.
And one of the deer just kind of hangs back in the woods. Another one keeps coming out. It's a smaller one, but I'm like, I'm going to go back to what my buddy Eric was telling me, going, hey, this is your first year hunting. My little bit of advice is if you see a deer, take it. He's like, you're not going to get all the opportunities in the world to shoot every single deer that you come across. So if you get an opportunity, just take that one. Just learn it. Like, you don't have to wait for that big buck, because in your first year, you're probably not going to get. And he was right.
Yeah.
I hadn't been seeing any bucks. It was all does that year. So this little guy comes out. I mean, little as in, yeah, your watch is going off.
Ew. Definitely not midnight. Continue.
No, it's not. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
I apologize. All right, continue.
No, that's all cool. And so I was like, okay. Yeah, I'll take this little guy. So I'm sitting in my seat. I brought this little it was like a portable little seat. And I have an arrow notch, got my wrist released on, ready to go. And he comes out at 30 yards.
Okay.
I'm like, that's doable. I can take that. So I start taking my bow and positioning. Whoa, burps galore. So I start positioning it. And it's clunk. It hits the piece of wood on the stand.
The bow?
The bow does. Because my situation, I'm too focused on this deer to notice that the bottom of my bow just clank right on a board, and it just poof, it's gone.
Deer's gone.
It books into the woods.
Boy.
I'm like, all right, well, there it goes. Well, I had to reassess. I'm like, okay, well, if I sit to my left a little bit, and I got this little window between one of the posts and a tree on the outside, maybe I could nail it if it walks through again. Will it? I don't know.
Uh-huh.
And I'd spend a lot of time just thinking about how am I going to shoot this deer? How am I going to break down this process to actually get it? And honestly, I didn't spend a whole lot of time talking with people on how to do things the best way, or have somebody come out hunting with me or me go out hunting with somebody just to learn from them. That's something I've always wanted to do. It was something I wanted to do with an old boss of mine, but I left Montana before elk season came around. So that was a big missed opportunity, right?
Yeah.
But one of these days I want to go back and call him up and be like, Harker, Can I come hunting with you? And I'm hoping he'll be like, hey, yeah, Jelly, come out with me, you know? That'd be awesome, right?
Dude,
so like
sweet.
I got no preconception about what this is gonna look like.
Yeah,
So,
what's supposed to happen
yeah,
next,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
Am I doing things right? I'd ask
Not
myself
experience.
that all the time. Am I doing this right?
Just assume you're probably doing it wrong that first year.
Yeah, no, and yeah, there's a lot of doubt that
There's
went into it.
there's some beauty to the ignorance, though, I will
There
say,
is,
because
yeah.
you do things outside the box, and there's things that
That's true.
that I would assume would ruin a hunt that didn't ruin a hunt. And I think if you were in if you heard conventional, quote unquote, conventional wisdom, and be like, oh, you may as well pack your bags and head home at that point.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah, that's kind of like how I got my deer, just walking around almost like an aimless idiot, and just run across a deer. And
Yeah, I think you were shed hunting, didn't you say?
I don't shed hunt.
You clunk your bow, the deer's gone, and then you reposition a little bit.
Reposition a little
window
bit. Yeah, and probably about 5-7 minutes later, it comes walking back out with its. I would assume like its sister, brother, or mom or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, cool. I got 2. Second cousin. Yeah, probably second cousin. Yeah, it is Saginaw, so cousins only out there.
Shots fired.
So, anyways, it comes out, and I just reposition, and I could either go for the bigger one, which was to my right, down this window that I had where I clunked my bow, and I knew I could probably get my bow up. I was positioned a little bit better that time. But this guy comes out and gets in front, and he stops, to the right of my window. So I'm looking at it. To my right, he's standing, and I don't have a shot. So I wait a couple more minutes, and he's grazing. He looks up at me. He looks back down. Doesn't bother him at all. But he knows something's up there. And so by the time he actually gets into the front of my window, I got my bow at the low ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I started committing to the shot. I'm like, I know I can take this. And that's where the whole breaking down your shot process comes in, right?
Yeah.
That closed loop, open loop. Help me out, Dusty. Open loop.
Closed loop,
right?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It's 50-50 chance.
Yep, yeah,
right?
that's right.
So, and that's the same with deer hunts. A 50-50 chance. You either get one or you don't. So I brought my bow up, and I broke down the shot by first pulling back, right?
Okay.
And something happened. The way that I pulled my bow back that time tweaked a muscle in my elbow. Or not my elbow, but my shoulder.
Yeah.
And it, there was a burning sensation the entire time I had it back. So I think I pulled a muscle or something.
Yeah, something got strained. Yeah.
Yeah, and so for the next 3 weeks, I'm I'll take a dumbbell. I'll take 55-pound dumbbell.
Yeah.
And put it up above my head with my right arm.
Yeah.
Totally doable. My left arm, no. Something was off. So
2-pound weights.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. No, I'm not like Dusty. So so anyways, I pull it back and I feel this burning sensation. I'm like, oh crap, this hurts a lot.
Yeah.
But I got to focus on the shot, so I just put it out of my mind and I focused to where I wanted to place a shot. And I knew I was gonna jerk. I knew I was going to jerk. I could just tell myself that. And that's the worst thing you can do when you're shooting is I know I'm going to jerk, so I'm going to compensate. But it did compensate because I'm I know he's at 20 yards.
Yeah.
Visually, I know my 20-yard shots.
Yeah.
This is 20. And it was right on. I counted out later. It was
nice.
I think it was 19 and a half or something.
Yeah.
So perfect. But I compensated just a little bit to adjust for some type of jerk or some type of off. Because when I shoot bad, it goes up and to the right. That's a lefty shooter.
All right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm okay, I know I can compensate just a little bit.
Yeah.
And when you and then I released it, and you hear you basically feel the string move forward and take that bow and let it fly.
Yeah.
And the weirdest thing was I could hear it hit the deer.
Dude.
And that is the craziest thing. Everything is quiet.
Yeah.
Even your bow is quiet.
Modern
bows are silent. But when you hear it hit the deer, it's a big thwack.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I actually got it.
Yeah.
And it ran off right into the woods. I was like, I don't know where I hit it.
Right.
I knew I hit it.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the midsection.
Yeah.
I don't know where. I'm hoping it was up closer to the lungs. And it runs off into the woods. And the other deer didn't even know.
Isn't
it runs
crazy?
off. It sees it run off. And just doesn't do anything. So if it was an intensive harvest, I could probably reload it and got that one at 45.
Dude, that's crazy.
I was like, oh, man.
Yeah.
So I kind of just waited a little bit, and after a while it ran off because the other deer started snorting back in the woods.
Yeah.
And, you know, it started warning the other guy of like, hey, there's some trouble out there. So I just sat for 20 minutes going, oh my gosh, I actually shot a deer.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like this excitement. It was like whoa, dude, I actually just killed something.
Yeah.
I've killed little Tweety birds before and
Yeah.
rabbits and that,
Yeah.
but that's different, you know. They're small little animals. This is a deer. This is something you think of, you put time into. And it was a bit more up close and intimate than any rifle shot that I've taken on any like little rabbit, right?
Yeah.
And there's this book out there called On Killing by Colonel Grossman. He's not sure if he's retired or still active, but he was in the U.S. Army, and he did a study on the psychology and effects of killing in the Army and in like personal lives. And, you know, there's this thing called distance that we have between us and those that we kill. And soldiers in the United States Army have been able to deal with it better psychologically today than they have in the past. And I'm talking millennia, right? So back when the Roman army existed, I mean, they used swords and spears. I mean, you're up close. You basically see the whites of your eyes of the people that you'd kill. But now in modern days, we use weapons, rifles. I mean, your distance in killing, it's completely different. It's not intimate. You can operate a drone, kill like 30 people, and it doesn't affect you as much as it would.
Yeah, you don't get the weight of it.
No,
right?
You don't. You don't hold that person or thing dying in your hands. Like, I can only imagine what it is like fighting a tiger with a sword back in like the gladiator days.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, that's survival, but you're also feeling the animal die.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, like, and I've felt animals die.
Yeah.
Not in a malicious way, but like, you know, just as a hunter or, you know, and other stuff, like you feel them die and it's slow. It's not instant.
Yeah.
And I could only imagine sitting there in the stand going, what is it like for that deer? Did I hit it where it killed it instantly? No, it's going to bleed out no matter where I hit it. And so I'm just kind of walking through in my mind of like, how's this going to play out? Am I going to have to track it for 100 yards? I'm going to track it for 10 yards? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I ended up about 20 minutes after sitting in my stand. I wasn't sure if it was long enough or too long. So I hopped down, texted my buddy Eric, I think I texted Dusty going, hey, I think I got something. And I texted my boss right away because he let me out of work early that day so I could go
nice.
I know, right? I was like, hey, do I need to be around or can I go hunting? Dave was like, no, you can go. We don't need you. It was great. So I ended up getting on the stand, going to where I shot the deer, and I could see little specks of blood. I tried looking for the arrow, and I couldn't. I really wish I could find that arrow again. But I started walking around, couldn't find any blood. I'm like, oh, crap. There's only like one little speck of blood. And so I ended up finally like walking like 20 yards south directly from where I shot it, and I found a couple more specks of blood. And I was like, oh, hey, now we got something here. And I found some of the leaves that were covered in blood on the edge of the woods. So I started kind of walking in there. And the coolest thing, you know, as a new hunter is like, I've never smelled a deer before. I've been told what elk smell like, a little spunky. You know, my buddy Harker was like, yeah, when you get up close to them, you can smell them. Oh, spunky. They smell like fungus. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't believe him. But like, as soon as I come up to where the deer was, I was like, oh, yeah, that smells like a deer. Yeah, like I've never smelled it before, but I'm pretty sure that smells like a deer.
And I had that same experience too when I was out hunting with Steve, or we'd be out scouting and stuff, and he'd always be like, I can smell him. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I have no clue. And then after tracking that deer, the one I shot, and getting close and being able to smell it, it was just like, oh, okay, that's what a deer smells like. And from then on, it was like, okay, I can actually smell deer. So yeah, I totally know what that's
and like. Now it's like if a scent came across and they're like, yes, this is deer, I could say yes or no. It's like it sticks in your mind. Yeah. So it's like, oh man, there's a deer around here. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that was the one I shot too, because it's not moving out here or anything. And man, it's weird because you come around the corner behind like this pine, and there's this deer just laying there like it's sleeping. It was really odd because I'm thinking like it's going to be flopping around or it's still going to be alive. And I was kind of scared because I'm like, if I kick it, is it going to raise its head up or start trying to run off? No, I kicked it. Nothing. It didn't move. I mean, it was breathless. I was like, this is amazing.
And how long do you think you ended up like tracking it?
it was probably like 10 minutes of tracking. Jeez. Of like finding a little bit of blood here, a little bit of blood there.
So you waited like 10, maybe 20 minutes to get down from your stand? And
it was definitely like about 20 minutes, but then about 20 or 10 minutes of tracking.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't much time at all. But because
so lucky.
Because I shot it at 25 yards, and it ran probably another 25 yards. So I'm looking at 50 yards of walking to find where it's at. And I'm like, oh, there it is.
It only ran 25 yards?
Probably about 25,
Jeez.
maybe 30. But that's nothing. So,
yeah,
and it ran into like this little spot where I'm thinking deer had been before and just laid down. And where I hit it was not a good spot. It was not anywhere near the vitals. All the vitals were in perfect condition, so I didn't nick any of those. What it had done was they shot. I'm thinking when I pulled back, my arm was burning with like a sensation that affected my shot. The way that I released just mucked everything up. Yep. But I'm glad I compensated. Otherwise, it would have either gone spine or just gone directly over.
Yep.
And so where it hit was below the spine, but above the stomach and most other things. So I'm thinking it
missed
hit
the guts.
It missed the guts.
Ooh, lucky.
Yeah. So I think it hit some type of artery. Yeah. But I don't know where exactly.
Yeah.
And the unique thing was looking at it was like there wasn't a ton of blood everywhere. So it either bled out internally or it just gave up its ghost and died. Which that's what I'm thinking is this was a young deer who did not have a whole lot of
fight in him.
Yeah, it didn't have any fight in him, and it just moved with this wound, laid down and died. And thinking about that, and I want to think that's true because I think from everything that I've read and seen, that sounds about right. But also that was probably the best way for that deer to die. To let itself go without having to suffer through a bunch of pain or anything. And not because I'm like, oh, save all the animals, big PETA this. But, there's a responsibility as a hunter to kill a deer properly and swiftly and ethically. There is some ethics to it.
Oh, yeah,
because,
totally.
There's no way you could justify just going out and blowing a deer's leg off only to watch it suffer. Like, you got to be, you have to have a little or no conscience to do that.
Yeah.
So
kind of on that same line of thought then, looking back, would you do it again the same way or would you do it differently in regards to you pulling that bow back and all of a sudden feeling that burning sensation, your shot process has been thrown off? Would you do it again, or do you think maybe now know what you know, would you let down and then redraw?
I'd probably let down and redraw because I don't want to muck this next shot up, right? And that was just, I don't want to say pure luck, but beginner's luck.
Yeah.
It was just, it was me being new, not knowing what was going to happen, not really knowing what's going on, and just going for it.
Yeah.
So it's that naivety that just went in that I had no better sense of what to do better. So, if that makes sense.
Did you kind of feel that weight of responsibility after shooting the deer, finding the deer, and realizing, oh man, I got incredibly lucky.
Yeah.
For how all this ended up playing out, considering all the
I got really lucky, and I only
details.
realized that like the day after, because at first it's like, oh, I actually got it. Sweet. Look at this. I'm gonna take a picture, and then send it to Dusty and be like, hey, I got my deer before you.
Is that actually how it all went down?
No, actually, I ended up texting him and be like, hey, so you remember that time where I finished my bachelor's degree first? Oh, remember that time I shot my deer before you?
Because Dusty had, 2.5 years in at this point, right?
Yeah. So, I remember getting that text and hey, I got a deer before you there.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's brotherly love, though, right
needless
there.
to say, I sent him a picture after I got mine. I'm like, at least mine's bigger.
Yeah. It was true. Actually, no, dude, that deer was so much bigger than mine. The back straps are like more than double the size of mine.
That's bad.
Well, okay, and so I go up to my deer, right, and it's they are tiny, but they tasted awesome.
They're like chicken nuggets or what?
Oh, dude, they're like the most tender chicken nuggets that
so
you've
good.
ever had.
They're so good.
No, and the beauty of getting a younger deer is the taste of the meat is perfect. There is no flaw in it at all.
I've heard interesting reviews upon that, actually. I've seen even people test them side by side.
Sure.
And a lot of it, from what I understand, I mean, there definitely is effects, right? Like, we can't deny that. But it seems like most of it is from I mean, just again, this is from what little I've looked into it and heard about it. But it seems like a lot of it has to do with the way the animal dies and the stress level and the adrenaline, and like if they're stuck in it, like if they're like you bump them after you hit them and they lay down in bed and then you bump them again, that adrenaline that keeps them going for an ungodly amount of time, that I've heard it can affect the taste of the meat.
So interesting thing on that kind of note, my wife and I noticed there was a difference between the meat of the deer that I got and the meat of your deer.
Yeah, mine was so much better. Just kidding.
Yeah, like actually it was interesting. You know, I'm sure there's a lot more factors.
Positive or negative? Go ahead and go into it. I don't mind if mine's worse. Don't worry.
Yeah, like yours wasn't quite as good. And I just wonder, like, if the effects of, you know, you having spine shot at it and it really, suffering, you know, the way it did, unfortunately, but like your meat was a little, like, the taste was different. It seemed it was a little tougher, compared to the deer that I got.
Did I give you steaks? What did I give you? I forgot.
Yeah, some steaks and then
for helping me pack
beef.
out. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was interesting, you know, to see that difference between the meat.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to go, like, that kind of goes to what, I guess, exactly what we're saying here, because, like, the feeling I had, because I had to go put another arrow in it, okay, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my choice was, like, let it bleed out from a spine shot, which is not a vital, but for sure, as far as, like, it hit an artery, I mean, there's blood everywhere from it, like, right away. But the other side of it was, I was just like, I need to end this as soon as I can, as ethically as I can. And so I went and I walked to the side of the deer. I was probably like 12 yards and whatever it was. And it's like you could see the deer's like eyes, like it knew I was there. I was well aware of my presence, and it like kind of somewhat quit struggling at this point. And I put another arrow into it, and I was like, oh man. It was just like, it was so.
Well, at that point,
it's just like, get it over with at this point.
the crappiest, and there's worse words, or there's better words that would describe it.
Yeah.
But the crappiest part about that whole thing is you don't become a hunter at that point. At that point, you kind of become an executioner. You're putting that animal down to relieve it of its suffering.
Yeah.
And that's the worst part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not cool, but that's the reality. And that's the best thing that you can do in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing you can do is just turn your back on it and walk away and come back later after it's suffered an insurmountable amount of pain.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And that's where I think that there's like we talk about responsibility and duty and at times a burden to make sure that it's not like, oh, I hit it and I mean, it was just so blatantly obvious. It's like, oh, bad shot. Yeah, it'd probably bleed out. I don't know how long, but also I'm just going to put one in the vitals.
Yep.
Because right there, and it's not getting away. So at this point, it's just a matter of, am I going to let it bleed out, or am I going to go really try to get it over with? And so I just decided to get it over with, and then I walked away and let it die in as much peace as I could, right? So
obviously, you know, you got your deer, you know, you learn how to process it for the first time and all that. But looking back, what were, you know, 2-3 big lessons that you took away for this next year of hunting?
Well, before I get into like the lessons learned, funny part was going up to it was like, oh, I got a doe. I didn't get a buck this year. Dang. So then I start like, oh, well, this thing's totally dead. So I lift up one of its legs to just kind of move it and to see it, like, to rotate the whole body to see how like the exit wound came out. Yeah. The exit wound was really nice. The entrance and exit wound were really clean. Mm-hmm. So, you know, shout out to Alan Broadheads for really providing me with a cheap broadhead, but they worked awesome. They actually worked. Okay.
Dustin is sick to his stomach right now.
Yeah, I know he is. He's cringing in his seat. But you know what?
Bad.
Whatever. It worked. I lift up its leg and I'm like, wait, those are testicles.
Yes, they are.
Like, oh, man, did I just shoot transgender doe or something? But no. It's just,
you went there.
You
don't discriminate. You don't discriminate?
No, of course I don't. But I was like, oh, this is weird. So I look up at like the head. Oh, there's some nubs, a little button buck, like a little baby button buck. But you couldn't tell from even like a few yards. But you got to be really up close. So I was like, wow, this deer is really young. So I'm thinking it was a yearling.
Yeah. Do you count that as a buck?
No, that's a doe because it's an antlerless deer.
Most of my family would not. I shouldn't say most of my family. My dad would count that as a buck.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless you end up needing your buck tag, and then that's a doe.
Right.
I mean,
well,
it's like,
and like at that point, I'm just going by what the rule book says.
Exactly.
You know,
yeah.
antlerless deer with
I'm
like
with
3
you.
inches or less. I'm like, okay, I'll go with that. And I don't have any ego to fulfill, so I basically shot a yearling button buck.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is what it is. But you know, and it's good meat. It was great meat. And my buddy Eric helped come out, pull it out. We got it. He ran me through how to gut it, and he didn't touch it other than helping me haul it. He's like, here's the gloves, here's a knife. I'm just gonna walk you through it. That was really cool.
That's awesome.
Because at that point, you're kind of becoming one with the deer, where you're harvesting it.
Yeah, it gets real.
You've killed it. Now
It
you're
gets real.
harvesting it.
Yeah.
And that's
the work.
That's really
some work
fascinating.
begins when you start doing that stuff.
It does. Yeah.
Labor of love with that one.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really glad that I don't have this disgust with meat. Like I go up to meat and I see it as meat. And same with harvesting a deer. It's just, it's meat.
Yeah.
It's dead, now it's meat. And now the fun begins of cutting it up, cooking it, making your own homemade hamburger, cooking up some awesome back straps. You know, like I've made my wife and I awesome venison backstrap dinners.
Awesome.
And probably one of the best parts, she loves venison.
Sweet.
And by backstrap dinners, he meant 2 dinners for the size of the backstraps that he was able to get.
Yeah.
So
they were good.
Yeah. So kind of to Dustin's thing, as far as big lessons, is there any point, and maybe, if not, that's fine, but also, was there any point where it was like a mental struggle or something you like actually struggled with, like during the season? Whether it's like, oh, I don't have the right, this may not be it for you, I don't have the right stuff.
No.
But, or you know what I mean? So
yeah,
what
totally.
What was a big struggle for you during your first
Part
season?
of it was, do I have the right stuff? Am I setting myself up for success without going without the camo?
Yeah.
Or for going with, $8 broadheads, like,
Yeah.
am I going to botch this one because I didn't want to spend $40 on this expensive broadhead that can flicker in and out, with like all these fancy lights and comes in like a plush case.
Are you going to change your broadheads or no?
Actually, I probably will.
Okay.
Yeah, no, like Dusty was telling me about like what were those called?
Tooth of the arrow?
Yeah, the tooth of the arrow broadheads. I was like, hey, those look pretty similar to the Allen ones, but I bet you these ones are going to be a bit nicer, so I'm probably going to try those out.
Yeah, because they're made in the good old US of A here in Minnesota, not China.
Surprisingly, those Allen ones were made in the USA. I still got the package. Yeah, believe it or not. They were probably made somewhere where they probably shouldn't have.
They were probably packaged in the USA.
Yeah, right? So, but yeah, I'll probably switch out the broadheads, and I'm going to spend a lot more time behind the bow.
That's
so
awesome.
that when the time comes where I have to pull that shot, I'm 100% confident that I can follow through with a decent shot within a 3-inch radius. And this last time, I think maybe I was 50-60% of the way there, and I don't think that's good enough. I got lucky. So,
can you describe like what it was like in that process of shooting a deer? Like, how would you say you were more focused on the outcome of the shot, or were you more focused in on the process, or what was that like for you, if you can recall?
I was definitely more focused in on the process, but things went south as soon as my shoulder started tweaking out. So I was focused in on the process. All my training and all the practice that I had been doing started to come into play, but that broke down pretty quickly because one aspect was off. So something that I really want to start doing this year is starting to shoot from different positions. Kneeling, shooting in between trees, not like shooting in between trees 10 yards down the line, busting up an arrow when you hit the tree. But like I'm going to stand in between trees and shoot between them just to provide myself like this wider range of experience of where I've shot and how I've shot. So like trying to expand my range of motion as well, range of position, and also just your comfort and time behind the bow. So like I think there's something to be said about somebody who's fired 100 arrows versus somebody who's fired like 10,000 arrows. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
Whether they have a coach or not, that doesn't matter. There's going to be a difference.
Yeah, I think a big part of that for me is confidence. I think most people, and even when I'm like right now, I'm for sure not in the closed loop thinking at this moment. But I would still say there's definitely value in going out and shooting, and there may be things that you have to rethink or you really have to be conscious of changing or focusing on. But getting to a point where you're like, I'm confident I can hit 20 yards, even though, so like for me, it's like I can be at the range standing and I can hit 30 or 40 yards and feel pretty good about it. But there's flyers, but then it's like 20, it's like bang, 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 all of them where they need to be. And it's like, okay, I'm confident in that shot, right?
Yep.
And those other ones are like, okay, you kind of got to get to a certain level with that before I'm saying I'm confident with it,
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. And that whole process of starting to shoot more and begin to break down the process even more and refine on those is I've started that back up within the past month and a half.
Nice.
I mean, I've gone to a couple of archery ranges here around town and just practice a bunch. I mean, I remember one day I spent like an hour and a half shooting. I probably shouldn't have, but I was shooting decent, and my groups were getting from wide to narrower and narrower. So I was like, I'm just getting better at this. Like, I'm just going to keep going. And pretty soon one of the kids comes up. He's like, hey, we close at 7, right? I was like, oh, no, I didn't. I'll see you later. Yeah. So
see, I find my shots when I start shooting are wide, they get narrower, and then wider again. I'm like, all right, time to quit.
Yeah, no, I feel that. But another thing that I really want to focus on is just making sure that I'm going to be talking with the right people and getting some input from some experienced hunters. I mean, that's something that I really lacked this time around, and that's something I really want to dig into more. I think that's something that all new hunters should have. I just had the naivety and the audacity to just go out on my own and just start doing it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Give it a shot, right?
That's pretty cool, yep.
Yeah.
So coming back and actually like really creating that community where
exactly
you're able to feed off each other and learn a lot. So that's
Yep.
awesome. And it's cool that you're open to it. And especially when you're like, you know what, I'm a lone wolf, I've been doing it this way, or whatever it might be, like just your natural tendency. But then to see the value in like, okay, I can open this up to some outside thoughts and criticism maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully constructive criticism.
I would love to go on a hunt with like this 65, 70-year-old guy who's been doing it for years on end and knows all the ins and outs. He doesn't even have to teach me. I could just watch him and probably walk away with a lot of wisdom.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we really appreciate you being here. We appreciate you sharing your experience, your first year, and I think we are going to be excited to bring you back as time goes on.
Yeah. In all honesty, too, I think one of the cool things from my perspective, being your brother, was, and despite you actually taking a deer before I did, I was actually pretty pumped, in all honesty, that you were able to get out. You got a bow that year. You dedicated time to learn and practice, and you got out and you were able to harvest a deer in your first year, which is something that I didn't have the first 2 years. So I was actually really, really pumped that was able to be accomplished by you and just make everything that much better for you than it was for me, and be able to share all my experiences and hard lessons and that you didn't have to go through them as long as I did. So that was pretty cool.
No, for sure. And that's not you stroking your ego. That's just the truth. You have shared a lot of your experiences and what to do right with me. I mean, most things that I've learned with hunting or even with sports, you've been able to teach me. So, and I will say you've come a long way in teaching me from how to throw a baseball to how to shoot a bow. I hated learning baseball from you. I love learning how to shoot a bow from you. You've come a long way. It's been great. It's been great. So
that's
yeah,
good. That's awesome, guys. All right, man. Well, it's been a good time. Appreciate everybody tuning in and hanging out with us. We'll be coming back to you guys in a week or two.
Yeah. So, and in the meantime, Ethan, where can people find us?
They can find us at Venator Chronicles Podcast, and we're on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean, and iTunes.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, hey, till then, you all take care and get out shed hunting or scouting or whatever you want to call it.
Whatever brings you the most success, right,
whatever
guys?
causes you to be a winner. Peace.
All right. Peace out.